Hi there, welcome along to another workout for you to row along to. It's the 500 meter plan, week 2, session 5. This is us at the end of week 2. Therefore, today is a bottom tier row. Now what we're doing today is just a straight 40-minute row, but we're going to break it into 4 10-minute chunks. We're going to start off at 20 strokes a minute at 2k plus 20, then we're going to go down to 18 strokes a minute at 2k plus 22, and then back up to 20 strokes a minute and back down to 18 again. Now, of course, that's the 2k based training pace. You might want to do what I'm doing and do the training based on your heart rate. Now, I use the Maffetone system for this training plan. That means that my heart rate is going to be 180 minus my age, which is 135 beats per minute. However, you might want to pick between 65 and 75% of your maximum heart rate and stick to that. Now for me, both calculations are 135 beats per minute, so I can pick either. Now the point here is that you start off and you let your heart rate gradually rise up to that point, okay? Don't be in a rush to get up to your 135. Just start the workout at the 2k plus 20 pace for the 20 strokes per minute and wait for your heart rate to get up to that range. If you then start to break past your heart rate range, that is when you then ease off your pace a little bit. But hopefully what will happen then is you'll have hit the 18 strokes a minute and be going slower anyway, and then you can boost up for that next 10 minutes and then drop back down again after that, okay? It's all in the plan. So let's start off with a 4-minute warm-up anyway. So start off by setting up your drag factor on the machine. If you don't know about drag factor, then please check out the video on my YouTube channel. Next up, go to your monitor and set it to eye height. So you don't have to look up and you don't have to look down. And then finally set the foot straps so they cover the bottom lace on your shoe, or if you're in socks like me, they let you hinge comfortably forwards at the front. Another cold day in the studio today, hence the hoodie. So anyway, warm-up is going to start at 18 strokes a minute. I'll tell you what to do as we go through the 4 minutes. So here we go then in 3, 2, 1, go. So this first minute of the warm-up, all we're going to do is move. Okay, don't worry too much about pace. I just want your body to get moving. Just feel your muscles starting to wake up as you press into the foot plate with your legs to start the power going into the machine. Like I say, don't worry about how much is going in, just be sure that you're starting to activate your muscles. Nice straight arms at the front. That should engage your shoulders, your lats. Then as you finish, your back and your biceps will come into play. And then as we come to the end of this first minute, you can just start to think about a bit more of your body angles. For the time being, really just think about a forward lean at the front and making sure that as you connect with your legs, you hold that forward lean and then you get a good surge of power from your legs, at which point you then rock over your hips into a backward lean. So really you're just going from 1 o'clock at the front to 11 o'clock at the back. And then making sure you get back into that forward rock before you slide down the rail. Okay, 3 more strokes. We're going to take one of our feet out of the foot straps. So 1 more stroke. Take a foot out, put it on the ground, carry on rowing. Find a position that's comfortable with the foot that's on the ground. So you can just rock from the ball of your foot onto your heel, carrying on rowing normally with just one leg in the foot stretchers. You're still giving a good solid push with that leg. Let's swap feet. Carry on for the other side. And just try to notice if your flexibility improves or gets worse as you change from one leg to another, because that might reveal some further flexibility issues that you might want to work on. 2 more strokes here, 1 more. Okay, both feet in, straight legs, and then just swing through your back and pull in your arms. So all you're doing is rowing with your upper body. You're not using your legs at all. Got a slight bend in them, just so that you're not locking out your knees, but you're not actually rowing with any power from your legs. 2 more strokes here. 1 more. Let's do the reverse. Straight arms, roll to the front, drive out with your legs. Just think about the connection with the flywheel here. That's all that matters, so you don't have to drive too far back. You don't have to go back so far that your power ends up going into your lower back and can cause injury. Just connect at the front, and that's all you need to do. Try and keep that posture up. 1 more stroke. That posture comment was to me, not to you, don't worry. I suddenly noticed myself in the mirror that I'd kind of slouched down. Anyway, right, keep on moving up and down the rail, have a quick drink, and I will very quickly go over what we're doing today. So then what we're doing today is a 40-minute row, but it's going to be broken into 10-minute chunks. You're going to do the first one at 20 strokes a minute and at 2k plus 20, and then the next at 18 strokes a minute and at 2k plus 22. Then you're going to repeat the 2 of them. So that's your 2k based pacing. But you might be like me and want to do a heart rate based training. Now for me, I'm doing this with the Maffetone system. Now that means that I'm taking 180 minus my age, and the result of 135 is the heart rate I do not want to go over. The alternative to this is that you pick a range between 65 and 75% of your max heart rate, and you don't go over that. Keep an eye on what it's telling you and make sure to keep it down, okay? This is the bottom tier session, all about recovery and energy building. This is not one where you're going flat out and your heart's busting out your chest, okay? Right, so let's get going. I might as well talk to you more about this and the whole concept behind it through the actual row itself. Just make sure we're all running. Yep. So, 20 strokes a minute, 2k plus 20 in 3, 2, 1, go. So, obviously 2k plus 20 is 2 seconds slower than I would normally suggest for this stroke rate. Usually, a 20 stroke a minute piece, you're going to be doing at 2k plus 18. However, in an effort to keep this firmly as a bottom tier, while taking into account the fact that we're going to be rowing for 40 minutes, that's why both of the paces for the 20 strokes and for the 18 strokes have been eased off by a couple of seconds. That said, there we go. I was about to say I'm massively off, but here we go, yeah. So I'm aiming for 205 for these 20 strokes a minute chunks of the 40 minutes. Now remember, there's no rest period as we change from the 20 strokes down to the 18 strokes and then back up again. It's a full 40-minute straight row, and that's why we're just slightly slower than the usual training paces, so that it doesn't take too much of a toll on your body. Of course, what that does mean is you're not going to have a chance to stop and have a drink at any point if you suddenly get thirsty. So let your own knowledge of your body be your guide there. If you suddenly feel very dehydrated and in need of a drink, stop for the 5 or 6 seconds it will take for you to take a big drink from your water bottle, because hydration is very important. There's no need to muck around with it on a training session like this and risk being dehydrated and not only training poorly as a result, but maybe doing yourself some mischief. And we don't want that. Leave the real taxing of your body for when you're doing an actual time trial or something. So we're 3 minutes in, and my heart is quite stubbornly sitting at 125 right now, but I'm not going to increase my pace as a result of it being 10 beats under, because I know as we go through this workout it will start to increase. Says he as it drops 2 beats. But I know that I'm putting in good power for my legs. I'm getting the sequencing right on each stroke. Well, as right as I get it anyway. So I know that as a full body workout, there will come a tipping point when my body starts to ask more of my heart, especially as I'm talking away to you the whole time. So eventually the toll that rowing and talking will take will suddenly make my heart rate spike. But if you're training on a heart rate point of view and you're the same as me, that you're within 10 beats or so of your target heart rate, don't panic. Don't suddenly think you're going to have to speed up by 5 or 6 seconds in order to race your heart rate up there. If this was just a 20-minute row, I'd maybe suggest that, but not for this one. Trust me, it'll climb eventually. Just carry on holding your 2k plus 20 pace for the time being. We've got, just over 4 minutes left on this first split over a 40-minute row, so we can be patient. So let's get technique out of the way first. See if I can get most of it done in 4 minutes. Unlikely, but let's cover the main points. So I discussed your back position in the warm-up. So you want forward lean at the front. Hold that forward lean as you start the stroke by pushing your legs into the foot plates, but then about halfway through that leg drive, that's when you rock over your hips to swing your back into that backward lean of around about 11 o'clock. And then as your back comes to a finish, that's round about the point when you want your arms to finish too. So swing your back, then your arms. Or at least start your back, then your arms. Really you want the power to be from legs to back to arms, but not quite as jerky as that. You'll get the feel for the rhythm. And then, once you've got your back in that backward lean, get your hands away to start your forward lean. And try and get into that forward lean nice and smoothly, but quickly, so that you're in position as you start rolling up the rail for the start of the next stroke. You don't really want to be continuing to lean forwards as you go down the rail, because that's what can cause over-leaning and a slumped back and lots of problems with your power. So try and get into position by here. So all you have to worry about is your slide up and then getting the timing right to push out with your legs again. It's simple. So all you have to do is lean in, drive out, lean back, lean in, drive out, lean back, lean in. In the most part, you'll find everything else kind of takes care of itself. But you can help all the different aspects of your stroke by thinking of individual bits of it. For instance, your arms at the front of the stroke, keep them straight as you connect. Right, hang on, pause in my chat. In 4 strokes time, we're gonna drop down to 18 strokes per minute. 1 more stroke. Right, so here we go. 18 strokes a minute. Back off the pace a tiny bit. My heart rate is up at 131, so like I thought, starting to slowly creep up towards the end of that first 10-minute split. And to be honest, even with backing off a couple of seconds, I wouldn't imagine it would get too much lower for this 18 strokes a minute split. Might drop down to the 125 for a while, but then I get a feeling I'll drift right back up again. Anyway, so arms straight as you connect at the front, and keep them straight as you drive. And it's only at the back of the stroke, as you start your backswing, that you start to bend your elbows and let your arms take over. So try to catch yourself in a mirror or something, especially at this kind of a stroke rate, because you're going slow enough that you can see what you're doing. And look and see if you're grabbing and bending your elbows too soon. A good tip is an external rotation of your elbows. That kind of focuses your mind on keeping your arms straight. And it also helps to engage your lats and let the power travel up through your back into the handle. After all, that surge here from your legs up through your back and into the handle is what creates a good kind of, well, 60 to 70% of the power of your stroke. So you don't want to leak any of it by fighting against it with bent arms. Anyway, so yeah, straight arms, bend at the back, and then the pace you bring them in, at, so in, out. So you send it out at the same pace you brought your arms in at. So in, out, in, out. And keep it rhythmic. Okay? Do try and copy the in and out. Everything's about rhythm. It's all a dance with the machine. As you glide back and then in, out, bum ba da dum bum, in, out, bum ba da dum dum. You get what I mean? It's all smooth. It's all about transferring power, momentum, and making sure to not waste any power or energy at points in the stroke where there's no need to do so. So the next thing really is posture. This is a big one. So when you look around at a lot of rowers and they are struggling to get pace or for it to feel right or anything like that, most of the time what you find is that they've got poor posture. Lots of people will suggest concentrating on that forward lean to the back lean, but they're missing the big issue, which is posture. And that all starts with your hips. So you want your hips to be up and primed in a nice forward position at the front of the stroke. What you don't want is for your hips to be tucked under, so you roll knees first to the front of the machine because your hips are tucked under. You want to be powerful on your sit bones, ready with your shoulders past your hips, so that when you start your drive, the power goes up into your arms. Now, a couple of tricks for that posture are, first off, imagine you're sitting on a carrot that's pointing upwards and you don't want to snap it. So you're nice and powerful, not bolt upright, but powerful. Braced core at the front. But then, if you feel like you're having an issue slouching at the front, then I've had, don't have it today, but had a little Lego man strapped behind the monitor with just his head peeking over the top of it. And then maintaining eye contact with my wee Lego man keeps me up and powerful. Much better than when I just try and pick a point in the distance on the wall and try to focus on that. Because the distance away it is means that it's going up and down too much. Whereas a little Lego man, he doesn't move up and down. So you can lock eyes with him or her. Doesn't have to be a man. And that will keep your posture up and powerful. Then, next thing to really talk about is handle height. Try and bring it in a neutral position. Not too high, not too low. And then bring it into your, what about your sternum height. If you want to lower it a little bit as you come out, then you can, but don't let it affect your posture. If you go down too low, you can slump with it, and suddenly you're not only slumping down, but as you drive, you're suddenly launching your back backwards too soon. But whereas you don't want that. You want to maintain that forward lean as you drive out. Which is why I prefer something close to the same plane in and out. Nice neutral height into my sternum and back out at a nice neutral height again. And then last real thing I haven't mentioned is just the seat slide. Make sure and slide the seat forward enough that your legs are at a vertical position. And that means that when you push the machine away with your legs and you drive away, you've got the best amount of power going in, and you can take a full leg drive back. All right, 2 more strokes, 1 more stroke, and then we're going back up to 20 strokes a minute. Here we go. So keep an eye on your heart rate. I'm at 132. And I'm still happy that it's gradually, very slowly climbing. And so far anyway, I don't look like I'm going to blow it. Although I have just climbed 2 beats. So I get the feeling if I keep on rowing at 2k plus 20, I'll end up blowing out my heart rate. But I'll keep an eye on that. So that's basically the bigger points with a few minor thoughts of technique. And that's all about safety and efficiency when you're rowing. So all this harping on about posture and transferring power from one phase of the stroke to another is really just about the efficiency of power, making sure that you're not wasting any, but also the safety of it, because you're not jerking from phase to phase of your stroke, and therefore risking your muscles from an injury through just being jarred too many times. Right, so I've backed down to plus 21. My heart's now sitting at 135, 134. So if I can try and keep to this range for the next 17 and a half minutes, then, well, it'll be a surprise to be honest, but hey. But it will be the perfect way to finish this week's training with a good, long, steady session, good low heart rate, which means I'm developing the ability for my body to want to burn fat for energy rather than going straight to sugars and glycogen in my muscles. I'm also just building a much bigger, stronger engine with a much bigger, easily accessible fuel tank. So my bowl of energy, bowl of power, fuel, whatever you want to call it, is getting deeper and a better shape, so that when I start the 500 meter race and I start to need to dip into all my energy, my body is just easily able to go, I'll have that bit, I'll have that bit, that bit, that bit. And it's not then searching for power, running out too quickly because it can't find any of the energy reserves that you need in order to be working at maximum energy, max power for the period of time it takes for you to row your 500 meters. And that is why this 500 meter training plan is just made up of these kind of rows and then the top tier stuff. Because there isn't really a need for the mid-tier tempo exposure to hardship style rows that would actually be kind of messing up your fuel tank, misshaping it a little bit because you're working a little hard and not allowing your body to recover enough, ready for the top tier sessions. I mean, it's a different way to approach training, and it's one that I've been really interested and excited by to use for this 500 meter plan, so I can then work out what to do for some of the other plans. I mean, sessions like this are perfect for like the 5k, 6k, 10k, even like a 40 minute like this is a good little primer for a half marathon. Although you do want to do a few more longer sessions for the half marathon. Because depending on whether your half marathon time is anything between 1 hour 20 and maybe 2 hours, you kind of need to have spent some time in the saddle to prepare yourself fully, mentally, to be prepared to row for like an hour and a half. I mean, so much of this game is mental. Wanting to perform for a 500 meter or 1k, 2k, 5k, whatever. Wanting to put yourself through what it takes to go all out. You can train your body as much as you want, but if your head's not in it, then you'll get a little bit into it and then just give up. And I think I've told you before, that happened to me last year at the Devon Championships. Been training really well for the 1K. Everything looked like I was gonna win, maybe not hit a PB, but certainly a season best for like the past 2 or 3 years. But I got into it, got about 500 meters in, leading the race, and then my head went, just wasn't prepared to put myself through that kind of hardship. So that's what like session 4's top tier this week. Part of that was about knowing, like the third interval was about doing it even though you knew what was about to happen. The second interval or second batch, you had an idea that it was going to be tough, but it wasn't until the end of the second that you really kind of dreaded the third, but you still went ahead and did it. And that's the same feeling as I had halfway through my 1K race, where I knew I still had a minute and a half of rowing to go. Everything hurt, and I just gave into it because I wasn't ready for it. Even though my body was, my brain wasn't. But it all really comes down to why you're doing this. I mean, for me, there's a level of vanity. I like being in shape. I like being on the podium, having a medal, preferably gold. Hang on, 5 strokes to go. Then we're going to change to 18 again. 2 more. 1 more. Which is a good thing because I'm up at 139. So 18 strokes a minute. And either back down to 2K plus 22 or whatever pace you need to do in order to keep your heart rate where you want it to be by either the Maffetone system or just picking 65 to 75% of your max heart rate. I must stress that max heart rate, you want it to be your maximum on the rower. So I recently did a race on Zwift where my heart rate got up to 183, but I've not been above 175 recently on the rowing machine. So I'm using 175 as my max heart rate on the rower rather than going for the cycling one. When I train on the bike, if I do a Maffetone ride, then I use that 183. So it is still sport specific. It only really differs by a few beats anyway. But like I say, it's down to what you want to get out from this. Have you just discovered that you quite enjoy rowing, and as a result you can feel yourself getting fitter and stronger, but you kind of have no interest to perform? In which case you might just want to stick to my pacing guides, or the 2K plus or minus rather than doing heart rate. Because for you, it doesn't really matter what your peak performance is like. It doesn't matter what your body's doing when it's trying to reach for energy. Because you're just loving rowing, which, to be honest, sometimes I'd take loving rowing over the pressure that I put on myself to perform. I mean, I know I lost at least a year of my training because I just couldn't accept that I wasn't as fast as I used to be, and so I kept overtraining, and as a result wasn't able to perform, and then got really negative and lost all my rojo. The mojo was the rojo. And it wasn't really until coming back with this shoulder injury and starting to make videos for you that I really got my rojo back. And so then the subsequent time we've spent together on the 2K, the 5K, and now this 500 meter plan has really given me the desire to want to heal and perform again. But the key is, this time round, I'm actually being patient about getting back to where I was. And I'm also looking out for potential landmines that could derail my progress. So things like the Scottish Championships next week, I could easily have entered the 2K just to see what it was like. But I know my performance will be nowhere near what I want it to be. And so I'll just start to look at how far ahead my journey is going to be to get back to what I once was. Whereas, even if I was to only manage the 1:32 that I did on my test for the 500 metres, even if I can only do that at the Scottish Champs, it's not going to affect me mentally. I'm not going to think, oh no, I'm never going to get back there. So it's important that the goals you set yourself, you not set them too far away. So say back in July when I was 7 kilograms heavier, if I'd have said I want to lose 7 kilograms, I would then start to break that down into, well, hang on, that's 15 pounds, that's over a stone. Oh, that's going to be so much hard work. Whereas by just saying, you know what, let's spend 4 months and try and lose between 1 and 2 kilograms a month, which is only about a pound a week at its maximum, then you start to go, you know what, that's manageable. It's going to take effort, discipline, but it's not like I'm saying I want to lose 7 kilograms in 1 month. So therefore, the kind of micro goal meant it was much more manageable. My staying power with what I was doing was there because either every week I'd get a little reward of seeing that my weight had gone down, or if it hadn't gone down, I knew I was only another week away from a weigh-in, and so knew what I needed to do in order to try and turn it around again. Whereas the difference between me rowing like a 6:59 2K and then looking at it and thinking, but I want to be 6:35. The gulf between those two times is so huge that I'd probably just give up. So, all I'm saying is work out why you're doing this and set yourself some kind of a goal, whether it's just pace, whether it's recovery afterwards, that you're not lying on the ground like a salmon after every session, whether it's weight loss, whether it's seeing some definition in your biceps, who knows? Pick what it is that you want, work out why you want to row, and then you can start to really concentrate on the things that will get you there. And to be honest, those things are to follow a plan, use good technique, and just apply yourself. There's no point you being on the machine and just tickling it back and forwards and not putting in the effort. Concept 2 is an incredible machine that will make you fitter, faster, and stronger. But only if you put the effort in the first place. So if you stick to the plan, do sessions like this at the right pace, which means you're putting in a good amount of effort, heart rate's up, and at the end of this, you should certainly feel like you've done a 40-minute row, then you're doing well. But if you kind of come off this and you don't even think you need a shower, because all you've been doing is tickling the machine up and down, then you're not quite going to get the return you're looking for. Okay, 3 more strokes to go and we're all done. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So another lecture-y, try to make sure I pronounce that word right. Lecture-y row today, with me just kind of talking about the importance of stuff. There was no real chat about food or Van Halen or drumming, I'm afraid, but those 40-minute rows are things that you need to just bed in and do. So hopefully the soporific nature of my, well, unlikely, but yeah, hopefully you got through that with me. So let's do a 2-minute cool down. Don't think I blew my heart rate too much there. Yeah, at one point it rose at the end of the second 20. Split, it got up to 74%. I saw it up at like 140 at one point, but got down to 70% again, which is bang on where it needed to be. So yeah, good session for my heart rate, if nothing else. So here we go then, in 3, 2, 1, go. So just go for around about 2K plus 30 as your pace here. Just make sure your entire system is connecting. If you feel like your legs are a little bit zingy after today's row, then you might want to just make this like a 3-minute cool down instead, just to kind of flush out your muscles. And much like the top tier rows, if you want to stretch off your hamstrings and your hip flexors and your quads afterwards, as well as your shoulders, it's quite a good idea, just to make sure you don't tighten up. But it's session 5. Now I'm doing these as all 5 in a row, and then day 6 I then take an elective session, and then day 7 is a rest. So tomorrow I'm just going to go for a bike ride, just load up Zwift, go for a bike ride round London or New York or Yorkshire or wherever's on hand. And then I'll take the next day as a total rest and my body recover, which is very important because next week is our intermediary test. So next Saturday for me is the Scottish Championships. So I'm going to have a 500 metre row on Saturday. So that will be session 5 for me, I think. Hang on, I was just counting out in my head. Let me get it right. If I start on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, yeah, so session 5. So what I'm going to do next week is slightly shuffle the intensities so that session 4 primes me and hopefully you for the test in session 5. Okay, so it's slightly different, but that's because it's test week. So just watch out, don't expect it to be the same order as always. And the thing about 500 metre, to be honest, is that, I mean, I've done a 5K race before and then done a 500 metre and set the PB that I've got on the 500 metre after the 5K. There's just, as long as you've got that fuel tank that can readily give you the fuel, which is what these sessions are about, then you don't really need to taper into a 500. Maybe if you're going for a world record attempt or that kind of stuff, it's probably a good idea to taper into 500, but just look out for the sessions next week and you'll see what I mean for how it's kind of geared towards the test for session 5. It'll make sense once you're doing it. So anyway, well done for getting through week 2. So week 3 has a test at the end, and then we get week 4, and then at the end of week 5 we have our final test, just to see how everything has sat in with us. So anyway, it's a Saturday for me. I've hopefully just burnt off all of last night's spaghetti, ready for tonight's dinner, which is gnocchi. So we're going to have hashtag gnocchi today. Remember, it starts with a G, gnocchi. Yeah, so that's going to be it, because hey, we've not done a food hashtag for a while, so it makes sense to have one in there. Thank you so much for being part of this. Do remember to hit subscribe either on the YouTube channel or on the podcast if you're listening to this through the podcasts. Make sure and leave a comment, let me know how you're getting on, and of course check out the Facebook group. Just type in RowAlong and you'll find all of my socials and all that kind of stuff. It's lovely to hear from you all, and I do really appreciate you guys watching these along with me doing them, because otherwise, like I said, I probably wouldn't be doing them if you weren't here. So anyway, have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.